Music theory, an annoyingly complex set of rules created by pretentious dudes in equally pretentious powdered wigs 200 years ago to make music seem harder and more complicated than it actually is. Or at least it can feel like that when you try to learn it. But that's not because theory is actually so complicated, it's because you're probably learning it all wrong. See, I remember my college music theory classes. Watching my classmates sit there with confused faces, barely understanding gibberish about figured bass and perfect authentic cadences, and my 18-year-old self knew in that moment that I was gonna master the stuff, and they weren't. Why? Because they weren't using the theory as they learned it. It's like if you study French for 4 years, but you never actually talk to anyone. You might know some random grammar rules, but you don't really understand or speak the language. Bonjour, je joue la basse avec le pied droit, por favor. But every time I was taught a new piece of music theory, I'd grab my bass and take that seemingly abstract classroom gibberish and use it to understand music and play cooler stuff. And that's what we're gonna do in this video. Demystify theory step by step so it's actually easy and you can use it to be a better bassist. And just like you can't cook up food without ingredients, you can't cook up music without notes. Notes are the basic ingredients that music is made of. All the bass lines and songs you'll ever play are made up of notes. Without them, music sounds like this. Exactly. So in music theory, we start here. Notes. This is a note, this is also a note, and this is a note, just not a very good one. All the sounds you make on the different frets of your bass are notes, and they all have names. But before you can understand those names, what actually is a note? Every time you pluck a bass string, the air vibrates and hits your ear. This vibration is relatively slow, so it sounds low. This one's faster, so it sounds high. Sound waves vibrate at speeds from super low to like super high, so it seems like there could be infinite notes, but that would be chaos, and with infinite notes, music would sound like this. Luckily, there's a little glitch in the matrix that makes music not that. Check it out, here is a note. Let's keep that note playing, and then we'll make a copy, and now we'll increase the speed it vibrates. And it sounds like different stuff, until you hit exactly double the speed of the first vibration. When you double or half the speed, it magically sounds like the same note, just higher or lower. This is a very special relationship between notes called an octave. So instead of infinite note garble, octaves give us a smaller, limited bunch of notes to work with, which is how we get the musical alphabet. Because here's the deal, without an agreed on musical alphabet, we can't really play music together. If powdered wig funky bass guy says there's 12 notes, but powdered wig guitarist says there's actually 17 notes, and the singer says, well, actually there's 31 notes, so screw you guys, well, that sounds like this. Probably not gonna pop the top off the Billboard charts, but I do like it. So just like with spoken language, different cultures have developed different musical alphabets, and for the kind of Western-ish music that most of us listen to, it's all about the 12-note alphabet. We have the 12 notes within that octave that we just talked about. I'm showing you this on a piano keyboard first, but it's the same on bass and every other instrument. I'll show you that in a second. We use the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, for the white keys, and we fill in the black keys by calling them sharp or flat. When you go forwards through the alphabet, you go to higher sounding notes. When you go backwards, you go to lower sounding notes. You can use either the sharp or flat name for a given black key note. Yeah, there's multiple names for the same note, which is called enharmonics, and it's delightfully confusing. But whether you call the note F sharp or G flat just depends on the context of the song. Okay, so knowing the alphabet helps you on bass how exactly? Well, it helps you navigate the fretboard, just like having a map helps you navigate the road. Check it out. Here's the fretboard. It is very daunting and mysterious if you don't know the musical alphabet. But start with a few reference notes like your open string names, E, A, D, G, and then you move up 1 fret at a time up the bass neck, just like going up 1 piano key at a time. Simply move through the alphabet in order and you can find every single note name. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And I've got a free PDF in the description with resources to help you practice and use this and all the other stuff we'll cover. And remember, that's how you actually learn theory. You take a concept like the musical alphabet and then you use it in real life. So next time someone says, let's jam, I'm playing G to E to C, you can use your musical alphabet map and find those notes and instantly play along with no other theory, just a dash of pizzazz. But the alphabet is just the start of music theory that's useful for bassists. Because notes don't just exist in a vacuum, like, hey, here's a note. Oh, here's a totally disconnected note. Notes all have relationships, whether they're played one at a time in a bass line, or at the same time, like in a guitar chord. And without understanding and naming those relationships, we're just guessing at how music works. Which is why powdered wig dudes developed the theory of intervals. So imagine you're building a house, but you have no rulers or tape measures. Like there's no way to tell the distance from the kitchen to the living room. So that'd be a pretty wonky house. So intervals are the ruler of music, measuring and naming the distances between notes. This is useful because it helps you see patterns from song to song, and then copy those patterns for your own riffs and stuff. Actually detailing out this interval system would take a whole video or more, so I'll give you the quick version and resources to go deeper in the PDF. Here's the easy part you can learn right now. We number the distances between notes by letter name, so A to B is called a second, A to C is a third, A to D is a fourth, etc. up to a seventh, and then A to A is an eighth, but we call it an octave, and you already know that one. So this ruler is called generic intervals because we know the letter names, but then we hit a snag trying to measure something like A to C versus A to C sharp, because the letters didn't change, but obviously C and C sharp are different notes. So here we need a different ruler with more specific markings. Say hello to the useful but slightly brutal theory of specific intervals. With the specific intervals ruler, you can measure the exact number of half steps from note to note. A half step is the smallest distance in music, like going one piano key or moving one fret on the bass. So from A to C is 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3. From A to C sharp is 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. Now we have specific, precise measurement, which is great. But how do we name these specific intervals? You don't need to learn all this right now. I'm just gonna give you an overview so you can see how kind of brutal the theory gets here. So to get specific measurements, we add an interval quality. So instead of just numbers like second, third, we call A to C a minor third because it's 3 half steps. We call A to C sharp a major third because it's 4 half steps. A to E is a perfect fifth, but A to E flat is a diminished fifth. So if you want to learn this in detail, there's resources in the PDF, and you'll need some patience to wade through the rules of when to call one major or minor, or augmented, or diminished, or perfect. Yes, those are all the real terms. So how do we use intervals on the bass? Well, let me tell you a secret. While any astute theory nerd should totally learn the theory of specific intervals, it's not really the native language of the bass. Because anytime you play an interval on the bass, it makes a shape, a visual pattern on the neck. So the bass neck itself kind of acts as an interval ruler without the theory. You can measure intervals just by the shape the notes make on the fretboard, like how many frets and strings apart they are, without knowing the interval name. So a singer or saxophonist might have to learn this note pattern as perfect fifth, minor third, major second, but on bass you can just learn this visual shape and call it the box shape, used by millions of bassists who don't know any interval theory. And hey, look, this is a theory video, so I will tell you that learning specific intervals is awesome and totally useful as a bassist. But many successful bassists probably couldn't tell you how to measure a diminished seventh, and that's okay, because they're using shapes to find their way around, not interval names. But which shapes can you use on which songs for which sounds? Well, that's why you need to learn this next thing, one of the most useful theory concepts that'll help you understand songs and easily create bass lines. We're talking about musical scales. Scales save music from utter chaos, because we got 12 notes in the musical alphabet. It's not as many as the normal alphabet, but it's still actually a lot, because if you use them all with reckless abandon, it sounds like this. So scales are how we limit what notes are allowed to get a specific non-mayhem sound. It's like Bob Ross. When he paints a soothing painting, he doesn't squirt every single color in the universe onto one palette. He picks a limited handful that he knows will fit together to make a happy little scene. Same with music. When you create a song, you pick a handful of notes, and then your song will sound like actual music. And just like old Bob has different go-to color combos, there are different go-to note combos, meaning different scales. Each one has its own vibe, and there's quite a few commonly used scales. There's the major scale, which I'll revisit in a minute, which is the basis for a lot of later theory, the minor scale, the major pentatonic, the minor pentatonic, the blues scale. That ends the most common scales and most people stop there, but the theory just keeps on going. There's all of the modes of the major scale, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Locrian. There's the whole tone scale. There's the diminished scales. There's the harmonic minor scale and all of its modes. There's the melodic minor scale and all of its modes. But don't learn all of those at once. You'll die. Just learn major and minor first. Once you do, you can understand a bass line like Feel Good Inc. You just spot the E minor scale shape, and you think, oh, it's just the first, second, third notes of the scale, etc. And if you really get scales in your ear, with practice you can just hear a bass line like I Want You Back and think, that's just the octave, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 5th from a major scale. Ho ho! But to get started with scales on bass, you just learn a simple shape, like this box for the major scale. Start it on whatever note you want, like C, that's your root note. Play the shape, and you'll have a C major scale, and you can play along with a song in C. And hey, suddenly playing bass gets easier because you know some theory. But that's just the starting point. To really learn scales or any theory, you need a lot of repetition, using the scale to learn songs and improvise your own bass lines. And it just so happens I know a guy who can help you do that without getting stuck. It's the handsome fella who made you the Beginner to Badass course. He teaches theory fundamentals using a 100% integrated with music method. So in every lesson, you're also learning technique, musicianship, and playing real music. Click the link below or check it out at bassbuzz.com. But here's the problem with scales for bassists. They make a great painter's palette for the whole song, but they're not always the best place to start for a bass line. Like, you just need brown colors to paint the bassy ground, but you're getting distracted with the blue colors that are for the guitarist's sky. You'll get an even more foolproof bass note color palette by understanding chords and arpeggios. To understand chords, imagine a huge choir with dozens of singers. The conductor gets them all ready to go, and then they all just sing the same note at the same time. Music is kinda lame that way, unless you're super into Gregorian chant. So in this modern world of musical evolution, we figured out that if you stack different notes at the same time, music sounds a lot more interesting. But we don't just stack random notes, we use a special scale pattern to find the best sounding combos. So when you play a C major scale on piano, you play all these white keys in order. And it sounds great played one at a time, but if you mash all the keys at once, it's not a great sounding chord. So to make chords instead of scales, you do a little magic trick and skip every other key. So instead of playing the notes in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you get 1, 3, 5, and if you stop there and play them all together, you get your first chord, called a major triad. It sounds so pretty and happy. Do the same thing with the 1, 3, 5 of a minor scale, and you get a minor triad, and it sounds sad instead of happy. These two chords are by far the most common in the music we all listen to. I Wanna Hold Your Hand by the Beatles, all major and minor chords. Yellow by Coldplay, same. The Chain by Fleetwood Mac, same. Multiply that by many thousands. But here's the thing about chords for bassists. We don't really go around playing like actual chords in songs. Some special bassists do, like Peter Hook, Marcus Miller, Lemmy. But for normal bass playing, it makes a bunch of mud that doesn't work in the average song. So we leave the chord playing to the guitar and keyboard. On bass, we play the notes of the chord one at a time, which is called an arpeggio. So the guitar plays a C major chord, which has the notes C, E, and G all played at the same time on the same strum, and we choose from those notes one at a time to make a bass line that fits the vibe 100%. To be able to play along with chords at a solid level of competence, all you need are two shapes that use that 1-3-5 trick you just learned. The major triad shape, which comes from the major scale shape you learned earlier, it just grabs the first, third, and fifth notes of that scale and works on any major chord. And the minor triad shape from the minor scales 1, 3, and 5, which works on any minor chord. So if the guitarist is playing a D minor chord, you just find a D using the musical alphabet, and then use the minor triad shape, et voila. But the guitarist isn't gonna play D minor forever, the chords are gonna change during the song, which is the difference between a song that sounds like this all day, snooze fest, and something that sounds like an actual song, where the chords are taking us somewhere, on a journey. And the way chords move through a song is called a chord progression. While there are some great songs that stay on one chord the whole time, like Thank You by Sly and the Family Stone, or Chain of Fools, Aretha Franklin, most songs change chords to take you on a journey. It's like in the great music theory textbook, The Hobbit. Bilbo has to leave his house, his home base, to go on an adventure to recover the Dwarfist treasure of Erebor. He has to go there and back again to feel accomplished. And that's exactly how chord progressions work. The chord that starts on the root note of the scale is your home base, and it establishes what key you're in. So if you're using a C major scale for a song, you're in the key of C, and a C major chord is your home base. Whatever other chords you go to are your unexpected journey. And whenever you get back to that home base chord, it's like, my armchair and my book. Okay, end Lord of the Rings nerditry. for now, but there's more to this, because what chords actually sound good together? That question takes us to diatonic chord progressions and Nashville numbers. Something I break down in detail in my Beginner to Badass course that we can only scratch the surface of here. Short version, every major or minor scale has 7 notes, and you can use that skipping a note trick to build a chord from any note of the scale. Like with a C major scale, which is all the white keys, you play 1, 3, 5, and you get a C major chord, which we call the 1 chord in Nashville numbers because it starts on the first note of the scale. If you scoot up to the second note, D, and do the same skipping trick on notes 2, 4, and 6, you get another chord, which we call the 2 chord, etc., 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 through all 7 notes of the scale. These 7 chords fit together really nicely because they are diatonic, which is jargon meaning they only use notes of the scale. And if you know the diatonic chords, you can spot the patterns that make 90% or more of popular songs tick. Don't Stop Believin', it's just 1, 5, 6, 4 chords. Baba O'Reilly, 1, 5, 4. So we've covered the alphabet, intervals, scales, and chords. What do all of these things have in common? They're all about the notes we play. But theory's not just about notes, it's also about understanding rhythm. Especially as a bassist, you can't just play notes. You gotta play notes at the right time. And our powdered wig friends came up with names for all the rhythm you hear and feel. There's the beat, the repeating pulse of the song that you shake thy booty to. The speed that those beats happen is called the tempo, which we measure in beats per minute, or BPM. Those beats are felt in groups, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each group is called a bar or measure. You label the song's rhythm with the time signature. You see these at the beginning of a song chart, and the top number says how many beats per bar. The bottom number says what type of note rhythm equals 1 beat in the written music. So 4/4 time means 4 beats per measure, and a quarter note equals 1 beat. But what the heck is a quarter note? Well, it's a name for a common note rhythm. Check it out. So a whole note lasts for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. A half note lasts for 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter notes last for 1 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes last half a beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Eighth note triplets last a third of a beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 16th notes last a quarter of a beat. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and. You can learn to read these rhythms visually, or just use the names to describe what you hear and feel. Knowing the names can help you feel confident that you're a solid, feel-good bassist who can play all the rhythms accurately. But having good rhythm isn't just about the notes you play beat to beat, it's also about the big picture, feeling where you are in the song so you don't get lost. And the rhythm of when a song changes from verse to chorus to bridge is called the form. Luckily, many songs use the same forms. If you've ever heard blues, you've heard the 12-bar blues, a repeating form used in thousands of songs. If you've ever heard a jazz tune, you've probably heard the AABA form, where a main A section plays and repeats, goes to a new B section, and then repeats the original A section. And if you've ever learned a pop or rock song, you've probably played verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus. And the more you play all these common forms, the more you feel them like a rhythm and can stay put in the song effortlessly. And that's the mega dump of pretty much all the theory you could possibly bother learning to sound smart during your first few years of bass playing. But how the hell do you know what you actually need to know, like right now? Well, to save you the hassle of learning things you maybe don't need for your specific playing goals, you can click here and watch music theory you actually need with none of the shit you don't. I split theory into 5 levels from casual jammer to full-on mastery. And I'm just gonna get back to my book here. Wish I could actually read Japanese. It'd be so cool. It's so hard.